So my goal was just to block all of those memories. And my brain is really good at that because a lot of my childhood to this day is blacked out. Hey, welcome back to Uncivilized Rebirth. Do you ever feel like something in your life is just missing, and if you had this piece in place, then everything would be complete? Probably is because something's missing, and it might just be the healing piece. What is healing? What does that look like? There are so many different things to be healed from. You can get a cut, you can get a burn, twist your ankle, hurt feelings, deep heart wounds, wounds of the soul. There are so many different levels to heal from. There's all these external things that can be healed and worked on. Cool. But the internal world is a huge, deep labyrinth that is sometimes very scary to step into and navigate, because you have to see those monsters from the past and you basically have to slay them. And that's not metaphorically talking about putting on your knight's armor and slaying a dragon. It's you have to figure out, what do I do with this damage from the past? How is it going to affect me in the future? And what can I do to resolve this? Or what is a tool that I can use consistently to keep this in check? Let's take, for instance, war trauma. I know about that. We could even go into many different traumas that I know about. But I'm going to pick war trauma. War trauma is not just having your leg blown off or your arm blown off or damaged. There are matters of the heart that affect somebody tremendously. And I have had trauma in a sense that it was a matter of the heart with what I saw and what I did. And I'm not going to share what it is, but I had an instance one day where a situation was presented to me. And it was a situation of mass gravity, or when I say mass gravity, a huge, big situation for these civilians' lives. It was just life-altering. They presented it to me, and I very callously, as a soldier, laughed and made them leave. And at that point in time, I had been in a very, in an area that had a really high op tempo, and that we were busy. And at that point in time, it was the only thing I knew to do, really, because my heart was so shut off. But I get back home, and it was a while later, and all of a sudden that memory pops back up. So I drink. The memory pops up. I drink. And I just wanted to ignore the fact that that version of me existed, and that is not a version of me that I ever want to be again. And I had to heal from that. So I had these opposing forces inside of me. This one force of just like love and kindness, and then this force of like dark aggression that was used at war. And it both basically have a different mask that they put on to present to the world. That's the best way I can describe it. So I had to go in. It's like, how do I take this memory and be okay with it? How do I view it? Because it would pop up at random times. So that means that my filing cabinet in my brain was not organized whatsoever. It was just this amalgamation of chaos in there. And so my goal was just to block all of those memories. And my brain is really good at that because a lot of my childhood to this day is blacked out. I don't remember very much of my black childhood, just bits and pieces. But it was like once I got away and I got to war, my memory improved and I remembered. But then, due to, I guess, my brain's ability to block out trauma as a child, it blocked it out as an adult. So this memory waited a few years and I was like, here I am. It's like, what do I do with this? It hurts my heart. I only want to drown myself in booze and pills to cover up this pain. And this is a spot in my life that I must heal if I want to move on. Because whether I like it or not, that will be passed on to the next generation. I will pass on a trauma without even knowing it. And that becomes a generational curse. I didn't forget this guy this time. So if I don't do this healing, do I just talk about that memory over and over and over? Do I just repress it? Do I try to go to distractions so I don't observe it in my mind? Because it's always going to be there. It's always going to be there. But I have to come to terms with that's a version of me who I was. That memory's in there, but I'm not that person now. Here's a tool that I have kind of started using and developing to help heal from that. Because like we were saying, like there are many different layers of healing. And the deeper they get, the different tools you need to heal that. So one tool that I've started using is my library. And it's a way that I organize my mind to put memories in certain places. The cool thing with that is the brain operates on little signals being sent down these neural pathways. And when you start imagining things, it actually responds with little signals it's sending. The brain responds with the signals that are being sent in conjunction with the visualization of the library. Here's what I do to start processing memories that pop up. They're very emotionally charged. So, as I've talked about in earlier videos, that when you have a memory that is made, you don't just have the visual in there. You have feelings that are programmed in. You have, emotions also. Then you have context. Then you have what your personality was at that point in time. So there's all these different layers that populate when that memory comes up and just brings up these overwhelming feelings and puts you back in that status of where you were then. It kind of just shifts you back. You're like, man, I was back there completely. How do you separate all that to just being, this is a story? Well, I built out a library in my mind. It took about a year working on it, and it's pretty solid now. And the way I use my library is I go into the library, and when a memory pops up in my mind, I go to my desk and I have a book laid out. And in this book, I start writing down just parts of the memory that's going on. It doesn't have to be in great detail, but I just write down most of it. Then maybe a word or two about the emotions I'm feeling there or that were felt in this memory. What this does is I am creating a new memory of that memory, but it is separated from the emotions. Now my subconscious believes that I've read this memory in a book from my past. And when I close it up and put it back up, the mind responds with those signals as in putting that memory away or where it's accessed. Basically, when a memory is put away, the energy to the marker that retrieves the data for that memory is just powered down. And you are changing where you're sending the energy to the brain through this symbolic creation of a library. And if the memory comes up more, I go into my library, I visualize that. So I'm taking over where the energy is going in my mind from processing this memory to I am controlling my imagination to see my library. And then I go to the book that is representative of that memory. I pull it out, I lay it out, and I put down a little more detail about it. And then I say what the feelings are going along with it. And then I close the book up and I put it away. The brain is shutting off power to that marker that was accessing it when I do that. The more I do that, the more I build a neural pathway that controls access to that memory instead of having to go to a distraction or a chemical. And this has worked with many, many memories. And I'm going to continue using it. And as I use it, it gets more and more effective. And then I will take this a step further. And I will sit down and I will pretend like my younger self is with me. Because I'm the version of me that would have protected myself as a child. And I'm going to shift from wartime trauma to childhood trauma, but without any details. So most of the time when we're adults, we become the version of us that would have defended ourselves against our parents, which is totally unnatural. Your parents should never attack you. That's just an evil heart, basically. So what I will do is when I have the few memories I have of my childhood, but the ones I do have, I will imagine I'm sitting down with myself as a child and we're looking through the book that's a story and we will talk about the scary parts of it. Like, man, this was scary. That was scary. It's like, yeah. But it's basically using visualization to not put myself in that mind frame of being a child. I've heard it's told this way and it's happened to me where I'm around somebody and then I get put back in that mode of being a child when I'm not a child. I'm a war-hardened man, you know. It's like I shouldn't have to act like a child around this person. But the way psychology works, it's like when this really strong emotion and framework is triggered by this said person who held a lot of fear in your life. Basically, a person that held you in a position where you viewed them in a place of terror, where you were terrified of them. And so then you just shift back into that child mode. But when I use the simulation of a book sitting with me as a child, I can actually talk about these memories, talk about the emotions, and then just turn the page and put the book away. And then I'm separating the child, feeling like a child out of that memory. And then I'm separating the emotion out of that memory. And it's becoming part of my library. It's part of who I am. It's how I can access data from the past and use it now. But it gets to the point where it's a very organized memory data bank inside your brain. And you're changing the pathways and how memories are accessed in your mind through visualization. It's a very powerful tool. So I'm going to wrap this up. There's a lot of layers to healing. And there's a lot of layers to healing memories. And when I say healing memories, it's organizing it properly. Not that the memory's broken at all. It's there. It's part of us. But we need to have control of our mind when we access it. And this goes along with many other ways the brain works with energy and where it goes. We need to control where it goes. So I hope that is helpful. I've had another video in the past about this. And as I do these videos, these are very powerful tools, and each time I explain it, I get a little bit better and a little bit better. And I'm hoping that on the receiving end, that you're hearing this and you're like, oh man, that's a good technique. And sometimes, like early on, I didn't grasp exactly what I was doing, but I had faith that the brush works every time, but I had faith that this process would work. And in that faith of like, I'm going to try this, it worked. It was tremendous. And it gives you control over your mind. Okay, there's a ton more I'd like to talk about right now, but I'm going to wrap it up. And I hope that this video is is not just a message, but it delivers a tool that will help you. Because we are in a very, very broken world. And there is a lot of tools and techniques out there that are not covered by many of the things that push for our healing. And anyway, I hope that makes sense. I hope you're having a great Monday. Roadhouse. The end. Like and comment and subscribe if you like it. If you don't. Anyway, good times.